Before I get into today's episode of Daniel Jones, just want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. If you'd like to save $20 on your first purchase, all you have to do is enter the promo code JKS when you enter your first purchase, and you'll get $20 off, just like that. If you're not sure what SeatGeek is, it's a great place to get tickets to sporting events like the preseason, and they also have stuff like concerts and comedy events, and pretty much anything you need a ticket for, they can pretty much help you out there. And you'll get $20 off. Use the promo code JKS. The link is in the description below. That'll take you right to the site if you're interested. And anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. So the first real day of preseason was yesterday, and one of the cool stories that happened was Daniel Jones having a great first drive. I mean, you couldn't help but feel bad for the guy after, he finally gets to achieve his dream. He gets drafted 6th overall. He's going to be playing in the NFL, but of course, everyone hates the Giants making that selection, so now he gets booed and stuff like that. So for him to come out in the first preseason game, and it is just a preseason game, it only means so much, but for him to come out, go 5 for 5, and throw a touchdown in one drive, I mean, it was just a cool thing to see happen. I'm definitely rooting for this guy. I mean, he just got so much heat coming out of the draft that really wasn't fair to him at all. I mean, there were some people, like I'll put myself in this category, of people that said, you know what, I'm not too high on this move, however, let's see how it plays out. I'm not going to hate the guy necessarily, but I wouldn't have made that move. Personally, I would have felt better about drafting Jones with the 17th overall pick than the 6th overall pick, but I also didn't absolutely hate the pick, I just wasn't a fan of it. But also some people hated the pick, and you know what, that's a fine opinion to have as well. I mean, if you don't like the pick, you don't like the pick. You don't have to lie about it. But I also think most people, myself included, did like Haskins better than Jones coming out of the draft. But he never asked to go 6th overall. So before he had even thrown a snap in a Giants uniform, he already had Giants fans that didn't like him. So let's get into it. Let's get into the breakdown. Let's talk about all 5 of the plays that Jones threw the ball in last night. And the first one was this one. It's going to be man coverage. It's actually a cover 1 man. And so the way this play is going to work is the number 2 receiver runs out to the bottom half of the screen right there. And then the number 1 receiver can simply just cut in. And that's actually a really good route to beat this type of coverage. That Giants receiver should be open for a period of time. But for Jones, he's going to have to time this one perfectly. Like as you see once this play develops is that first off, the receiver Jones is trying to hit is definitely open. But keep in mind there's going to be another Jets player and Giants player right in front of him, so he can't just throw it right now even though his receiver is open. He has to wait for those 2 guys to get out of this area. However, of course, he can't wait too long because the Jets defensive back who's in charge of covering the receiver that he wants to throw it to could definitely break in and try to make a play on this ball. So he's going to have to time this one perfectly, but look at his timing. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what you would want. It's good timing, it's a good throw, and that's what results in a decent gain. I mean, again, nothing crazy. We're not talking home run play right there. But, picking up 5 yards on a 1st and 10, that's important. I mean, now it's 2nd down and 5. You can really do whatever you want there. Also, on a bit of a side note, I really feel like the real winners from this game were the Jets uniform design team. Talk about another thing that got a lot of heat before we actually saw it in action. But I thought the Jets uniforms actually in action looked pretty solid. Am I alone in that? I know that has nothing to do with football, but I think they look alright. I mean, granted, it is a lot easier to make a solid away uniform than a solid home uniform. I mean, it's kind of hard to just mess white up. But I don't know, I thought they looked fine. I guess we'll really have to see them play a home game to really see how their uniforms are, but at least their away uniforms look alright. And because I know that's what you guys are all watching this video for, is to see my expert analysis on football uniforms. Well, there you go. Anyways, back to this next play. It's going to be a cover 3 zone, and so what Jones is going to do here is simply, I think this is actually going to be an RPO, which is kind of unusual running an RPO in the preseason, but that does appear what the play is going to be. Either that or it's just play action, but they are run blocking, so I'm pretty sure it is an RPO, but it took me by surprise to see the Giants running an RPO in this situation. But anyways, they run the RPO, then they have the number 2 receiver just run that route right there. So again, if the receiver is open, then Jones hits the receiver. If the receiver is not open, then Jones just hands it off to his halfback. And since it's a cover 3 zone, basically the way the receiver would be open is if the linebacker who's covering the middle of the screen kind of does move closer in. And as long as the receiver who he's trying to hit stays to the inside of the Jet who's closest to the top half of the screen, this could allow him to create some space and potentially get open. It's possible. It's something that could happen. And as you see right now, first off, he is to the inside of that receiver. So okay, some separation right off the bat. And also if you look over, the linebacker is definitely being ready for a potential run. So for Jones, he sees this, he's going to pull the ball back, make a great throw, and be able to pick up a solid gain. Those are the things you like to see from Jones. Him making correct reads, even though again, these aren't too complex coverages. I mean, everyone's going to pretty much run very simple coverages in the preseason. You're not going to get too fancy with disguises and things like that, but you will occasionally have a disguise or two there. But more importantly, it shows that Jones can still be effective and can still make these throws. I think that's what it really shows, and Jones did a pretty good job on those first 2 plays, and he's going to do a great job on this next play. It's once again a cover 3 zone, and what the Giants are going to do, first off, is they have a halfback and fullback in the game. And so if you're the Jets right now, what are you thinking? Well, you might be thinking, okay, it's probably going to be a running play, and that's a pretty safe assumption. I mean, fullback and halfback in a game, usually you run the ball in those types of situations. And so for the Giants, this is actually not going to be a running play, it's going to be play action, and what they're going to do is have a receiver run that route right there. And the whole reason for this is to hopefully get guys out of position. You hope that the Jets, who are in charge of covering the midfield, end up moving in, and then you can just simply throw it over them, have a receiver open, and pick up a solid gain. And it's going to work out. I mean, the pocket is completely clean, which is what you love to see. And also, now look, Jones has a receiver wide open. I mean, this play was less so of just a great Daniel Jones play and more so of just a well-run play by the Giants, but Jones definitely did his part. I mean, he definitely made the throw that he had to make. It's a great throw, hits his receiver in a way that his receiver can still try to pick up more yards after the catch, which is always very key, and that led to a big gain. It's plays like that that'll get people who at first were very critical of the Daniel Jones pick say, okay, hey, you know what, Gettleman, you were right on this one. If he can consistently do that, that's how he'll get people on his side. However, I do have to say, for whatever reason, I was watching the local feed of this game, and one thing that bothered me was when a commentator said, well, people who don't know football were all like, what, this is a terrible pick, whereas people that do know football all love the Daniel Jones pick. And then people that don't know football are now coming around and saying, oh no, I like the Daniel Jones pick the whole time. And to me, that's just kind of an absurd thing to say. I mean, it was live TV, maybe he just didn't word it the way he wanted to, so I will give him that out. But at the same time, to suggest that someone who disagrees with you on a certain pick doesn't know football is just ridiculous to say. Listen, you can like the Daniel Jones pick, you can disagree with the Daniel Jones pick, or you can hate the Daniel Jones pick. None of those three options are things that you can say and also not know anything about football. I mean, if you said, they should have gone punter there with a 6th overall pick, then maybe you don't know football. But just simply to say that people didn't like a pick, so therefore they don't know football is really ridiculous. To me, I know it's just one line, but it just kind of represents the things that I hate in the sports media of the, no, I'm right, so therefore I'm smart, or you're wrong, so therefore you're dumb. Like, you're going to get some predictions right and some predictions wrong. That doesn't make you smarter or dumber. Just my opinion, I don't think that anyone is smart or dumb just for having a certain opinion. I think you're smart or dumb based on how you got that opinion. But anyways, okay, rant over, let's get over to this play. It's going to be a cover 1 blitz, and the Giants have a receiver running that route right there. And keep in mind, this is a 3rd and 7, so this is a key play here for Jones. That's the route he's going to look to throw to because it is a good route against a man coverage like this. And take a look at what's going to happen after this ball is snapped. And so his receiver is going to get open, but this isn't exactly an easy throw by any means. I mean, Jones could just try to throw it and basically have it hit like right where the 15-yard line is and hope his receiver can fall forward for an extra couple of yards, but that is kind of a risky play. You're then relying on your player to be able to fall forward for a couple of yards, and if there's a good tackle there, you don't get the first down. That's something you would maybe do in a 1st and 10, but in 3rd and 7, you got to pick up to 7 yards. And one thing worth mentioning as well is, again, look at that pocket. I mean, Jones has all day to throw, and if you're a Giants fan, that might get you just as excited as Jones being able to make these throws. I mean, we all knew Jones could make some throws, but having a clean pocket is something the Giants haven't had in forever. But anyways, look at Jones's throw. I mean, that's just right on the money. I mean, if you put a football-sized target there and told him to hit it, he would have hit that target. I mean, that's just exactly where you want to hit him. That's just a great play. Honestly, that was probably my favorite play from Jones, was that one. I mean, it was just a perfect throw. But the touchdown play was pretty good, but it was actually a little bit interesting. Like, the way it's going to work is it's going to be a cover 2 zone, and of course, the guy who is going to be throwing a touchdown to will be that receiver right there, and this is a good way to beat a cover 2. It's going to be in between the gap, in between the midfield, and in between the safeties, so if you can kind of get it in that gap towards the edge of the end zone, it can be a touchdown. But what I find interesting about it is that is not the only way they're trying to beat cover 2. They also have another receiver on the top half of the screen doing the same thing. So, for Jones, he should just look at which guy does he like better pre-snap and then look to throw in that direction, and he's going to choose the guy in the bottom half of the screen. However, one thing you will notice is that the receiver on the top half of the screen does get more open. If you see, he's very open right now. When I was just watching the game live, that's what I noticed, and I was like, oh, Daniel Jones made the wrong read, but then he goes and makes a perfect throw for a touchdown. That receiver was way less open, but you know what? You put a throw like that, and I mean, that's what happens. Granted, the defensive back maybe could have made a play on it had he been more aware, but at the same time, you gotta give your players a chance to make a play, and that's what Jones did there. And also, just to be clear, I am not in any way blaming Jones for not being able to throw it up to the top half of the screen, because, I mean, you have to really make your decision pre-snap because it just happens so quickly. That was just what I noticed watching it live. It's a lot easier to see it when you're watching on TV than it is when you're actually in the game because you kind of have to turn your whole body to see who's on which side of the screen. But Jones's first game was pretty much, it was literally perfect. He went 5 for 5. It was definitely awesome. I mean, seeing him walk over to the sideline and seeing all the Giants around him who seemingly were genuinely happy for him. I mean, you had to just feel so bad for the kid when he got drafted, and the fact that he was able to have a great preseason. Again, only one preseason game. I'm not willing to crown him the GOAT just yet. I mean, I thought as a whole, Giants fans, definitely you got a lot of reason to be optimistic going into this next season. I think anytime you get a new quarterback, you have reason to be optimistic. And I also think if Jones continues to play like this in the preseason, I mean, how do you not give him the starting job? Especially with how seemingly NFL ready Jones looked in this first preseason game. I mean, why not just throw him out there and get him some snaps, especially with the offensive line playing pretty well? Again, I'm not going to be too reactionary over just one, really, not even a preseason game. It was one preseason drive, but he looked good in this preseason drive, and so give him credit. I'm rooting for him. I hope he does well. I'd like to know what you guys thought of his first performance, so let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.